Talking about headphones, it seems to be an issue.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our first virtual summit and our second session of the day. Hopefully some of you joined us in the first session to learn a little bit more about innovations with the stock market game in a virtual platform. We will be sharing both of these sessions video later this week. So we will be taping. We will also be answering your questions as we go. Sarah Gunn is with me. As you can see Sarah, say hello to Sarah. She's from the Federal Reserve Education Department, and she is here to share sort of the best of what the Federal Reserve has to offer from all of the district offices for educational tools in a distance environment. So we're very excited to hear from Sarah today, and we're very excited that you all are with us because we know that you had a very challenging school year and you all are heroes to all of us, and we want to do everything that we can to support you. We know there's a lot of unknowns going into fall, and we want to make sure that we can address your needs both virtually as well as in an in-person classroom setting. So I'm going to hand it off to Sarah. If you have questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and pose your question there. Any technical questions about not being able to hear or things along those lines, you can feel free to chat to me directly. My name again is Julie Weaver. I have Alan Cox with me too, as many of you know Alan. So we will try to answer questions as we go on both the technology issues that you may be experiencing as well as any questions about Sarah's presentation. So now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. Welcome, Sarah. We're excited to hear from you.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. Let me go ahead and share my slides. Let me know. Can you see them on your end?
Yes, I can see it, Sarah. Looks great.
Awesome. Great. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. My name is Sarah Gunn. I'm the Director of Economic Education at the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. And I'm really excited to share some of the resources that we have available to help support your distance learning needs this fall. And I just want to echo what Julie said about, thank you for all that you've done, and totally recognize that your springs were really challenging, and the level of uncertainty you're facing for the fall just has to be overwhelming. So thank you for everything you're doing. You're doing a great job. Just keep up the good work. And we hope that, some of the things that we have to offer can help. And then again, as Julie said, feel free to type questions into the Q&A box as we go. I'll try and address them along the way. And I have asked Julie to help interrupt me if there's a question that I don't see as it comes in. So before we talk about resources specifically, I want to take a minute to talk about the structure of the Federal Reserve for a second. So the Federal Reserve is the central bank for the United States, sometimes referred to just as the Fed. It has a centralized government component that's located in Washington, D.C., called the Board of Governors, and they oversee the operations of the Federal Reserve. And then there are regional, not-for-profit, private components located throughout the country called Federal Reserve Banks, and there are 12 of those. And you can see on the map where those 12 banks are located. And the 12 Federal Reserve Banks really perform the day-to-day operations for the Fed, like payment services and supervising and regulating banks. And then the two components, the Reserve Banks and the Board of Governors, come together to set monetary policy, which is the influencing of the interest rates and the availability of credit in the economy. And that's called the Federal Open Market Committee. I think I said that. So the governors that lead the Board of Governors and the presidents of the different reserve banks participate in that group to vote on monetary policy. Typically they meet about 8 times a year, but in extenuating circumstances like a pandemic, they might meet more frequently. So you can see where the reserve banks are located throughout the country. Their district boundaries are based on when the Fed was created in 1913. So you can tell that they're a little lopsided towards the East Coast of the United States. I work for the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, but we serve a whole region or district. So we serve Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina, DC, and most of West Virginia, really having people that help meet the needs of the financial institutions in the region, And then we also make sure we're serving the communities, including the educators of our area. But each of the reserve banks across the country, or most of them, have economic education staff, just like me, who are helping to, promote economic and financial literacy education throughout the country. And then we collaborate on a regular basis and help share each other's resources, which is what I'm going to be doing today. So you'll hear resources not just from the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, but from the other reserve banks as well, and the Board of Governors. So here's a little outline of what we'll cover. So first we'll start with where to find Fed resources. We'll dig a little bit deeper into one platform called Econ Lowdown and how to access that and make sure you can set up an account and add your students. And then we'll talk through some featured resources for elementary, middle school, and high school. And really those are just going to scratch the surface of what's available, because there are hundreds of resources available for you to choose from. So my goal is really to pique your interest today so that you take the time to dig a little bit further to find the resources that best fit your class. And then we'll definitely have time at the end for questions and to wrap up. So we're going to cover a lot. And if you only remember two things, I want you to remember federalreserveeducation.org, and I want you to remember econlowdown.org. And those are the two places where you can find all of the resources that we'll talk about today. And so you can refer back to those if you don't remember anything, or if you just want to find additional resources for your class. So those are the two big takeaways, and we'll come back to that again. So first, I want to show what Federal Reserve education looks like. A couple of things to draw your attention to. All 12 reserve banks and the Board of Governors have their education resources housed on this site. So from all across the country, you can find stuff here. You can type directly into the search bar. If you know a topic that you're interested, or even if you know a resource by name, you can search for it there. I actually find more useful the resource by audience function in the upper right. If you click that, it will take you to a different screen where you can, it'll filter it by grade level for you. So you can select elementary, middle, or high school, or college, or adult. And it'll take you to a different screen where you can filter by a number of different parameters, from topic, resource type, subject, even national standard, if you're looking for a particular standard to be addressed in the resource. Two other things on this page. So as you have transitioned to distance learning, the Fed has transitioned to distance and virtual programs, which has really kind of blurred the barriers of our district boundaries that we used to have. And so we wanted to make sure everyone was aware of all of the different virtual learning opportunities that were available to them. And so all 12 reserve banks in the board have an opportunity to post webinars and other virtual learning in this section. I counted this morning, and there were 25 different webinars scheduled for this summer. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at the listing there and see if any of those topics interest you. They range from Insurance 101 to the impacts of COVID on food and energy. So definitely be sure to check those out and go ahead and register if there's something that you're interested in. The second thing I want to draw next thing I want to draw your attention to is where you can order publications. So while we're in a period of distance learning and it kind of lends itself to virtual or electronic resources, it's still possible, maybe in your situation, maybe if there's a blend of in-person and distance learning taking place, to order print materials. And so you can order any print materials from the Federal Reserve System by clicking there, and then we'll ship them to you at no cost to you. They're not free because nothing is free, but we make them available to you for use in your classroom. So that's where you can come, and then we also have some featured resources along the bottom as well. So definitely be sure to check out federalreserveeducation.org and explore it on your own time. We are going to spend a significant amount of time here on Econ Lowdown. You can access it via econlowdown.org or through the St. Louis Fed's education page. And while it's created by the St. Louis Fed, just like FederalReserveEducation.org, it actually has resources there from a number of reserve banks, including the Richmond Fed. And we're all adding more all the time, especially in a distance learning environment. So Econ Lowdown is an instructor management system where there are online resources housed that you can assign to your students virtually and track their progress. You can explore the resources without logging in by looking at that resource gallery in the middle. But in order to assign them to your students, you do need to create an account, but that's a relatively simple process. And then in that red box is where you'll log in once you've created an account. Once you've registered and logged in, this is what your screen will look like. And you can access a lot of different features from here. In the interest of time today, we're kind of going to just talk through some of the high-level steps to setting up a classroom and some of the additional features that are available. So if you want to set up a class, you click that My Classrooms button at the bottom or along the header at the top. And then you'll see it'll take you to a screen where you can enter information about your class, the class name, the dates, and add your students' names. You can also opt to use Google Sign-In in this platform, where you would then get a code to give your students to join the class once they've signed in through Google. You can also wait and add all of the information later if you just want to explore what's available on there. The resource gallery at the top is where you'll look at all of the resources that are available. You can add items to your class syllabus. You can see where it says that it's showing 398 resources. Actually checked this morning, they're now up to 402. So that screenshot is already out of date. And resources are being added all the time. We're planning on adding a number of resources this summer too. So definitely take advantage of the filters that are available at the top. You have even most popular, newest, featured. Your resources would be the ones that you've added before. Most popular, you get an indicator of how many classes have been assigned a particular resource in the last couple of weeks. And then you have the resource types too. So resource types might be a reading Q&A, where they read an article and answer questions, a video Q&A, where they watch a video and answer questions, to a longer course on monetary policy that has, you know, multiple lessons and multiple knowledge checks, in addition to a pre and post assessment as part of that resource. You can filter by subject, topic, group, grade level, language, and then how long it's going to take as well. So definitely use those resources. And then as far as what's available here, well, there are 400 resources in total. The bulk of them are for high school. There are about 100 for middle school and about 30 for elementary. And so they do get less, but more is being added all the time. So let's take a little bit of a look at how you add them to the class. So you just select that plus sign to choose them. I did a filter based on business cycles. And of the resources here, you have a video Q&A, an audio Q&A, which is listening to a podcast and answering questions about it, a reading Q&A, and then an online course. You click the Add to Classroom button in the bottom right. If you've set up multiple classes, like if you're teaching multiple periods of the same course, you can select which classes to add them to by checking the box and then click Finish Adding. You can also, if you haven't created a course at that point, go back and create one at that time. Before your students can actually see the resources that you've added, you do have to click that Go to your classroom to publish changes button, which takes you here. And then you have that publish in the upper right-hand corner, the green button that you would click to actually make it available for your students. Students access the portal through a different link. If you add the students yourself, you would get a student code and a password automatically generated for them. They don't need to have an email address in the system unless you want to, and they're over the age of 13. Or if they use the Google Classroom login, then they would use that login and enter your course code. Either way, once they're in the course, this is what they would see. This is the interactive syllabus. It lists, the different activities or things that have been assigned to them. They click the pink launch button to actually access each resource. And you can, in here, I have the dates all the same from June 21st to July 24th, but you could stagger the assignments so different things would be available at different times based on the due dates that you have. And then when they complete the assignment, this is what you'll see on the other end. This is an example of the student progress for a video Q&A. So you access this through the student progress button. You can see the progress on the different types of resources along the top, and then you see the student name, only listing the first name and last initial, the resource name, how many times they watched the video, how many times they attempted the quiz, and then the total points and the score. And you can export that into an Excel spreadsheet or CSV file, or print it if you need to export it into or import it into another platform. So that was a really quick tour of how to set up your classes. That's not the only time you can get a quick tour. The St. Louis Econ Ed team has created a PDF guide that follows step-by-step instructions on how to do each of those things. And then as we transition to the distance virtual environment, they created YouTube tutorials as well. So there's a series of 5 video tutorials that walk you through step-by-step how to add resources to your classes. So we're going to move on to talk through some different resources that are available. But before we do, I want to make sure there aren't any questions before we move on. So if you do have a question, I'll kind of pause for a minute and see if you have any questions about Econ Lowdown or federalreserveeducation.org. All right, I know it takes time to type, but I think I've given it enough time and no questions have come through. Oh, sorry, thank you. So question did come through. Can you just use the initials or first names of students for privacy? I think if you log in through the Google login, it will automatically import from Google the first name and last initial. But if you enter it yourself, then you would have a little bit more discretion about what information is added about the students, where you can choose just to enter a default letter for the last initial and just the first name, or just the first initial and last initial, depending upon your preference. And then so definitely keep privacy top of mind. And then a comment, the videos and podcasts were very helpful this year. Thanks, Mike, I agree. And again, please continue to enter your questions in the Q&A if you have anything, and we can cover them as we go. Thanks, so we'll go ahead and move on to some of the featured resources for each grade level. And as I said earlier, this is just to provide a flavor of the types and topics that are available. I think your needs are going to be different based on the classes that you're teaching and the students that you're working with. So I definitely recommend exploring what resources are the best fit for your classroom. And if you need help identifying the resources that are a best fit for you, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information will be available at the end. So we're going to start with elementary resources and work our way up. And we're going to start with the resources available in Econ Lowdown, and then we'll also share some resources available elsewhere as well. So a number of resources in Econ Lowdown are these video Q&As where it's a short video. You can see this one is only 3 minutes and 1 second. And there are going to be questions available, questions shared at the, after the video to assess whether the students have learned the material. So this is the preview that you would get if you were exploring the resource gallery. And the topic of this one, is what makes something useful as money. So it's going to explore what things have been used historically as currency, and then, evaluating whether things are scarce, generally acceptable, portable, durable, indivisible. And in all virtual things, you end up with friends coming to say hi. I apologize for the distraction. So that's part of a 5 video series called Explore Economics that looks at the economics of transportation and other things as well. And this is just one of the videos in that series. And then there are 6 multiple choice questions at the end of the video. There are also short courses available for the elementary audience in Econ Lowdown. These are 2 of them. There's a 3rd one that features Ella as well, or yeah, 3rd one that features Ella as well. And so Ella saves today, and Ella give Elle credit. Really are kind of virtual books that are read. There's a pre-test and a post-test. These are designed again for a K through 5 audience. So for the younger students, there's the option to have even the questions read aloud to the students so they don't know, oh, the cat is doing crazy things, I'm sorry.
So while your technology is getting itself back on track, there was a question from Jerry Otto about whether the materials are copyrighted or not. Do you mind answering that?
That's a great question. They are, everything is free to use for educational purposes. We do ask that you cite or give credit to the creator, in this case, the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, depending upon what it is. But yeah, we have pretty generous use policies for all of the materials. So it's a great question. So again, I apologize for the keyboard walking. So these 2, there's a 3rd one that features Ella, as I said, that's on decision making, called Once Upon a Decision. And those, 3 kind of quick courses are books. There are other kind of virtual books that can be read to students as well. A series called Financial Fables, which teach financial lessons, are other things to consider for the early elementary audience. Sorry. There's also apps available from the Fed for the elementary audience. This one is actually from the Board of Governors U.S. Currency Education Program. This group helps retailers distinguish between genuine and counterfeit currency, but they also develop resources for the education space and for children in the classroom. So the Money Adventure app follows Buck the dog on an adventure to learn about the security features and the symbols on our currency. It even features augmented reality, where you have kind of a giant bill appear in the space in front of you. So if your students have the ability to download apps to a phone or a tablet, that would be an option. It's also just really cool to explore as an adult. So I recommend that one. Another resource, and again, the slides can be shared afterwards and have all the URLs where you can get to the resource itself, or again, go back to Federal Reserve Education or Econ Lowdown to find these. Escape from the Barter Islands is a web-based game. It's also available as an app. It's a trading game where students get to barter to get the materials they need to get off of the islands where they become shipwrecked. So they, I think, pick oranges and then have to trade the oranges to get the materials that they need. And that's just a fun game where they learn something as well. And then, well, I think it's easy to have virtual things, especially for an elementary audience. If you have the ability to share print materials or paper copies of things, that's an option too. So I mentioned Federal Reserve Education. You can order printed materials and have them shipped to you. You can also do that from the Reserve Bank's website as well, where we could ship them directly to the students. So this is an example of an elementary workbook that teaches about the features of money and the characteristics of money. It also talks about opportunity cost and trading. There's another elementary workbook called Piggy Bank Primer that would be great to use, especially if you're seeing students in person some days, but not all days. You could hand materials out that they can do while they're at home. So My Money Zero, we're actually in the process this year of translating My Money into Spanish, so that should be available in the spring. Another workbook for upper elementary and then for even early middle school is called Great Minds Think. And Great Minds Think kind of walks through the same things. You can see what is a bank, ways to pay, and there's different opportunities for the students to add information on their own. And then if you do have classes that you're hosting online via Zoom or other platform, there are a lot of children's literature lessons available on federalreserveeducation.org that seem really kind of easy to adapt to a virtual environment. And all the lessons have a children's book and then an activity to go along with it. You know, for example, if they're drawing a picture of their savings goal, they can share that with the class via the meeting after you've read the book. So again, those are kind of the elementary resources. There are many more available. I'm going to move on to some of the middle school resources. Navigate is another workbook that helps students explore college and careers. This is designed to be walked through lessons with a teacher, so there's an instructor manual to go along with it, so you could then facilitate if you're able to have classes live with your students. And again, this is another print material that you can order and share with your students. It could be done mostly independently. They do some debrief assignment afterwards. It's a budgeting game called Dollars and Cents Watch Your Expense, where students walk through 7 different budget choices based on their lifestyle preferences. They pick a job that they're interested in and see if their budget can balance. And then they get also opportunities for chance things to happen that are either positive or negative that might impact their budget. So that's really a fun way to teach budgeting. Here's an example, or here's a close-up of what the jobs available, which include student loan payments depending upon the education required, and what the budget table looks like in the back. Resources on Econ Lowdown for middle and high school, video Q&As with assessments, and these 2 life goals talks through, sorry, I lost my spot. Life goals is actually tied to the stock market game. Invest It Forward video series covers saving early and investing to help younger people attain long-term goals. The Amazing $2,000 Pizza, part of the Continuing Education series, talks about credit card debt and the risk of, and how to use credit cards responsibly, and how even a pizza could end up costing you $2,000. Other video Q&As on Econ Lowdown. Growing Money covers compound interest. And then we have a video on soft skills as well. Both of those are part of the No Frills Money Skills series, which features 8 episodes. The soft skills video is the last one. And the soft skills is important. It talks about communication, cooperation, professionalism, work ethic, and things of that nature. There are 172 different video Q&As on Econ Lowdown for high school students and middle school students. So there's probably one related to a topic you're interested in if you check those out. Another popular resource type in Econ Lowdown are these reading Q&As, which are a short article on different subject matter that feature questions as follow-up that then automatically are graded. For you, Page 1 Economics is a series. Every other issue they call a focus on finance, and they write a middle school specific version of that article to make sure it's appropriate for the middle school audience. Reading Q&As, we actually, the Richmond Fed has a number of reading Q&As available in Econ Lowdown too. There's one on business cycles and one on full employment. And then this summer we'll be adding 2 more on real interest rates and leading indicators, and probably additional ones over the course of the year. There are 83 different reading Q&As available on that site. Other types of resources not for high school students that aren't in Econ Lowdown. Chair the Fed. It's not really a personal finance resource, but it's one of the most popular resources in the system, where students get to play the role of the chair of the Federal Reserve and set interest rates to try to achieve monetary policy goals of price stability and maximum employment. So it's really fun. At the end of the term, you either get reappointed or you get fired, and it's really difficult to get reappointed, even for me. So it's a fun game. I recommend it for you to play and for your students. And there's just additional learning that they can do through the FAQs and other documents that are available in the site. And then one that I also want to highlight from the Richmond Fed is Invest in What's Next. This is an online mini course for high school students that helps them make decisions about what to do after high school, weighing the costs and benefits of the different educational options that are available: certificates, associate's, and bachelor's degree paths. Investinwhat'snext.org is how your students can access it. And it's broken into 3 45-minute lessons exploring my options, budgeting for my future, and building my plan. In lesson 1, students really focus on what interests them and what lifestyle they want to really guide the education path that best fits their goals. So they explore a community of jobs. They estimate what their lifestyle is going to cost based on their preferences. Do they want to, eat out regularly and take public transportation? Do they want to go to live concerts, or are they okay watching TV at home? And then how much income will they need to support the lifestyle that they want? They're spending and then taking savings and taxes into consideration. They get to explore the whole world of jobs available using data from the Occupational Outlook Handbook from the BLS. You can see that scatter plot in the bottom. It arranges the jobs by education required at entry level and pay to see the relationship between education and income. And they explore the different degree paths available so they can learn a little bit more about what they mean and how long they take to achieve. They make some decisions and they focus on budgeting in lesson 2, budgeting both for their life and then also budgeting for their education. And the focus of Invest in What's Next is not on the sticker price of going to post-secondary education, but on the net price. So we try to help them estimate what their grants and scholarships might be and estimate what a potential student loan payment might be in their future, and can they fit that into their budget. At the end of lesson 2, they really have a plan in place that they get to evaluate in lesson 3. They look at all the things included in their plan, the different factors that might impact how long it takes their plan to break even. If you think of education as an investment that at some point you hope to break even on, different things are going to impact that. How well their plan handles change if they run across different scenarios like not completing the education path they set out, which leads to a preparation assessment where students do a self-assessment of how prepared they are for the education path, looking at their academic readiness, their soft skills, and then how well they know their options depending upon the grade that they're currently in from 8th grade to 12th grade. And they get an indicator, green, yellow, or red, and specific feedback on how to get from yellow or red to green and how to stay green as they move through high school. And they can build and compare other plans. So they get 2 output documents based on their choices. The one on the left is an animator job, and that's all of the information that's inputted throughout the course in a visual way that can be exported as a PDF document. And then they can create other plans and compare them to each other across a number of different factors and determine which plan might have a bigger payoff in the long run based on the cost of education and the potential income and how long they have to be in school. So that's a lot about Invest in What's Next. Your students create accounts in that as well. They do that at investinwhat'snext.org. I recommend you create an account and explore that. And we're working this summer to make sure it's easy for you to track your students' progress in that course. So more to come, and definitely feel free to reach out if you have questions about that specifically. And then here, so there's my contact information. Don't hesitate to reach out via phone or email. In the virtual distance remote, email is probably better. If you want to receive emails from us at the Richmond Fed Econ Ed group, use that QR code and enter your email address. We'll have lots of fun things in store for the fall. We're planning webinars of our own. We're going to relaunch our educator advisory group called Teacher Collaborative Committee in January of 2021. We'll be recruiting for that this fall. So if you want to find out about what's going on with us, please sign up to receive those emails. And definitely don't hesitate to reach out again if there are any questions. And we have a few minutes for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see me a little bit better. And please send your questions in.
While people are thinking of their questions, Sarah, I want to tell you did a fantastic job covering all facets of some great tools that are available for K through 12. I know that our teachers are really looking for tools that they can use, and we want to give them everything possible without them having to dig and search for things on their own. So really appreciate you being here with us today. Any questions that you all have about where to find resources, or if there's something that Sarah hasn't covered, we'd love to entertain those now. You can also contact us offline if you'd like to as well, too, so that, because we're all available to you, our job is really to serve you, the teachers. So I know both Sarah and I share that thought that we're available to you anytime via email. Phone is a little difficult these days, but we always will return your call if you leave a message for us. But we really want to serve you and to make your job easier, as this has been a really heavy lift for all of you this spring, trying to cover the content in the standards and trying to find innovative ways to do that in an electronic platform. So yeah, terrific. Let's see if we have any questions coming in. Okay, so here we go. Will these resources and slides be shared? Yes, we will be sharing the slides as well as the video from today's session, so that you can access it whenever you like. We'll be emailing participants in the program directly, and then we will be posting it on our website if you weren't able to join us today, or you want to advise one of your fellow teachers what they missed out on by not attending live, and they can get the information as well. So that will definitely be available. Other questions? Oh, let's see what we have. Sarah, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so the question, can we have them mailed to your homes instead of to schools? Yes, you can enter your address, your personal home address into the field to order them as well. For our tracking purposes, if you would include your school name in the order, that would help us from a metrics perspective to know the schools that we're reaching specifically. Yeah, we can definitely send them to you at home. And then are there digital copies to share in your classrooms? Yes, for anything that's printed, there's a PDF version, if that's an easier way for you to share. And then I believe Great Minds Think they've actually created interactive PDF version of that as well.
And Sarah, I have a question for you also.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I get regular emails with everything new that comes out from the Federal Reserve. Can teachers sign up for that the same way that I get emails? Does it happen when they automatically when they ask for things like the documents or whatever?
That's a great question. So it depends upon where you order from, but typically you have to opt into the mailing list separately. And then, you know, I guess one downside of having a decentralized central bank is that most of the Reserve Bank's education groups have their own mailing distribution for updates. And so you might need to opt in a few different places. It's something we should probably work to streamline. But you can, the QR code that I shared on the last slide was for Richmond. If you do like what's on Econ Lowdown, I highly recommend registering for their emails too, because you'll get updates as resources get added to their site.
I also wanted to share while we're waiting for additional questions, if there are any, that Sarah mentioned that they have a full schedule of webinars available this summer from the Federal Reserve. In addition, here at the Maryland Council, we are also preparing a list of webinars that we're going to offer as well, so stay tuned. I know one of the first ones we're planning is for high school teachers, and it's called Understanding Fiscal Responsibility. In addition, where permitted, we are willing to do in-person training in your county. So if the situation with the COVID pandemic flattens out to a point where we all feel comfortable getting together in person, we are willing and able to do a custom training session on a variety of topics in person in your county as well. So I know as educators, we are people, and this technology interface sometimes is a little isolating. So we're happy to try to reach you in whatever format works best for you. We can bring Sarah back and some of her colleagues for sessions, and we're open to your suggestions as well. While we think we have some ideas about what might be helpful to you, our best source of information is really from you all directly in telling us what's challenging for you and how we can help you with additional training to make that burden lessened. So feel free to reach out to me. My name is Julie Weaver again. Our email address for the council is mce@towson.edu if you haven't been on our website before, so that you can reach out and let us know what we can do to better serve you. So I'm not seeing any additional questions. Sarah, do you have any final thoughts? And we'll wrap up and let these teachers get back to their day.
Thank you very much for having me and the opportunity to share the resources with the teachers who have joined. And thank you again, teachers, for all that you do and continue to do for the students.
Great. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah. Great job, and look forward to working with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.